What is going on, guys? We are finally back with another Walking Dead theory video. Oh my goodness, it has been a second. I apologize for being gone for as long as I have, but we are going to finally continue this wonderful series. We are here with What If Carlos Trained Sarah, Part 2. We last left off when the group was taken by Carver's crew. The group is taken back to House, where they meet up with other survivors who were kept in the yard, most notably, Reggie. The rest of the scenario would play out similar to the original story, only with Sarah assisting Clementine with figuring out how secured the yard is. Sarah will tell Clementine she doesn't wish to get Reggie in trouble, but you can still try to convince her to look around the yard with you. The next morning, when Carver is assigning everyone their tasks, Sarah in this scenario most likely listens to Carver's instructions, as she has grown more attentive to her environment thanks to Carlos's training. Carlos isn't forced to slap her like in canon, and Sarah is able to focus in the greenhouse, which keeps Reggie from being killed. Since their work in the greenhouse is done, it makes more sense that Clementine and Sarah would both be sent down to help Kenny and Mike. Similar to canon, Kenny and Mike are seen fighting near the window, which inevitably leads to the walkers breaking in. Sarah and Clem would each grab something to fight them off, however, they get separated, and Clem is cornered in the closet by two walkers. While she manages to kill the first one, a second one pops up to rush her. Luckily, Sarah distracts it long enough for Troy to kill it. Sarah helps Clementine up and tells her she's relieved she wasn't bitten. As they make their way back inside, Luke whispers over to them from the comic book store. He tells them his plan to steal the radios so they can figure out a way to escape. Clementine meets up with the rest of the group after speaking with Carver. She eventually gets the two radios like in the original storyline, only this time, when the group is trying to figure out who gives Luke the radio, Sarah steps up, telling everyone she'll take one of the radios to Luke, as she doesn't want Clementine to take all of the risks. Carlos isn't as protective of her, since he does want her to grow as a survivor, but he does tell her to be cautious. This places Sarah in Clementine's position when she discovers that Luke wasn't in the comic book store. Everyone finds out that Luke was caught, and Carver finds one of the radios. When he calls on them to tell him where the other one is, Sarah tries to reveal that she has it. You can tell her to keep it, or leave her be. If you leave Sarah alone, Carlos will grab the radio and tell Carver he had it the whole time. If you tell her to keep it to herself, Carver will notice them talking and pick Sarah out, revealing that she has the radio. Carver tells her she will be punished for stealing the radio, but Carlos jumps in to defend her, telling Carver he put her up to the task. No matter what you do, Carlos takes the fall for his daughter, and Carver decides to beat him with the radio, similar to what he did to Kenny in the canon scenario, hoping to make an example of him in front of Sarah. She rushes to try and help her father, but Kenny holds her back. She yells at Carver, begging him to stop and telling Kenny to let her go. Carlos tells her to look away, as Carver continues to strike him. As Clementine, you can do nothing or rush over to try and help, but to no avail. Carver doesn't beat Carlos as bad as he did Kenny, since he didn't provoke him in any way, but he does do enough damage to injure his eye. He stops after 3 strikes, before Bonnie enters the room. Sarah rushes over to Carlos on the ground, distraught that Carver hurt her father again. Bonnie then tells everyone that they're escaping tonight. The group discusses how they're going to make it out. Luke says that they should wait, as he doesn't feel like it's the best time to leave with Carlos in his weak state. Kenny chimes in, telling everyone they need to leave as soon as possible. Reggie responds, saying that leaving would be a death sentence for all of them. While Sarah is tending to her father's injuries, she tells him Carver won't get away with this. The rest of the scenario would happen very similar to canon, with Clementine heading to the control room to set off the speakers and getting back to the group to help them disarm Carver. Rebecca tells Luke to shoot him, since Alvin does die regardless of your actions. Suddenly, a bullet hits Carver in the leg. Rather than Kenny, the bullet is fired by Sarah, who is overcome with rage and sadness for the loss of her friends and the injuries dealt to Carlos. She then grabs the crowbar as she wishes to do far more damage to Carver to make up for the pain he's inflicted upon her father. Sarah looks down at Carver, saying, "You broke my dad's fingers, and you broke his face. Now I'm gonna break you." Carlos, in his weak state, begs Sarah not to go through with killing Carver, and tells her that he can't hurt them anymore. Sarah responds, saying Carver's a threat as long as he can still breathe. She raises the crowbar and strikes him on his face. She glances over at Clementine for guidance. You can choose to let Sarah continue, or stop her before she goes too far. You can tell Sarah that she doesn't need to be like Carver in order to make him pay, and that watching him lose everything is punishment enough. Sarah gives the crowbar to Kenny after hitting Carver, and hugs her father. The group walks out before Kenny finishes Carver off with a bullet to his head. If you let Sarah continue to beat Carver, she does exactly what Kenny did in the canon scenario. Carver's face is reduced to a broken skull, and Sarah drops the crowbar, with a concerning look on her face. Carlos is devastated to see what his daughter has done, and places his hand on her shoulder to comfort her. Once the group has made it outside, they start putting walker guts on themselves. Troy shows up like in the original story. However, 2 things can occur based on your earlier decisions. If you decided to stop Sarah from beating Carver to death, the scenario plays out like in canon when Jane shoots Troy. if you allowed Sarah to beat Carver to death. Sarah shoots him in the leg to disarm him while he's distracted by Jane. Troy shouts in pain, which draws the walkers towards him. The group continues on. Since Carlos isn't constantly looking over to keep Sarah calm, he decides it's okay for them to spread out, which keeps him from getting shot. Sarita is saved from being bitten, and the group is able to make it out unscathed, with Reggie as a new addition to the group. And guys, that is where we are going to stop with part 2. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I appreciate everyone being patient with me this past month, just dealing with this dumb sickness. February was the worst month ever, but hey, you guys made it worthwhile, and I hope you all found this video to be very interesting. I will try and have part 3 to you guys next week or the next week after that. Thank you all so much for being here and still being with me. We are on our road to about 700 subscribers, and I am just very thankful for that. I appreciate all of you. I will see all of you guys in the next one. 2 cents out.